Okay, I guess it's opening time. So, welcome to the bar, everybody. I'm Allan, and it's my bar. It's Allan, it's my bar. So, you know, the thing we were looking at, though your barman, the guy who runs the bar, is your best friend. And you go to the bar, and I don't know whether it's a beer in front of you or a tequila in front of you, whatever it may be, suddenly everything worrying you in your life, you talk to the bartender about it. So I've got a story to tell you about two bankers that came into my bar. And boy, do they have some stories to tell. So let me put that up so that we know who I am. That looks like me, people seem to say, and you can't see the pictures because I told you to sit in the middle, but the people say I am allegedly retired. Look at the picture. Tell me that that's allegedly. It's on a sailboat somewhere. But I'm Allan Foster. I'm running the bar, so after I do this little bit, I'm not going to be saying a lot more, and we're going to listen to some interesting stuff. And I think it must be 2 o'clock on a Wednesday, which means the regular crowd is shuffling in. Welcome, Linden.
Thank you.
So, Linden, Dawson, are you going to talk about yourself and just tell us who you are?
Sure. I'm Linden Dawson. I'm from the National Australia Bank. I work in the Digital Identity and Access team. I don't normally drink on an afternoon at this hour. More like a Friday night, I guess, but we're going to go with that anyway.
We could blame Australia, but it's only 6 in the morning there. So.
A little early.
And here comes one of our other regulars. Come on in, Hutch.
I'm sorry, is the seat taken?
Please join me. It's been a week.
It's a small bar. We've got
late.
2
It's the only
seats.
It's
Hutch,
been a week.
tell us about yourself. How's your week been, man?
It's been great. My name's Steve Hutchinson. You can call me Hutch. I'm the Director of Security Architecture for Mitsubishi Bank of Tokyo, and I absolutely drink at this time of the afternoon.
And that's the bar. So, I have some surprises for them. We're going to be hoping the talk stays together because it could get bad as we get later on. Let's try my first concoction we've got here. This is risky business.
Matches my nail polish. Right.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So, you weren't looking happy when you came in, Linden. How's your week been going?
Oh, man.
Let me
Speaking of risk, I got myself in this risk sword fight, is the best way of putting it, with my first line risk lead. And I think she was fighting me just for fun. I actually think she was, and she's challenging me and she's pushing me around this digital innovation that we're trying to bring to market. Are you sure what happens? Whew, it's like a near miss. And she's really good at her job. And she's challenging me in a way that I thought, wow, how hard, this is really difficult to justify all the things. I don't want to think about all the things that go wrong, but apparently you have to. When you're in the product team, you have to consider all the things.
They got some of my money. I want them to do that.
Right. But then I realized, out of the shadows comes second line risk. Have you met second line risk?
Yep.
It's just terrifying, absolutely terrifying. Like they're like Captain Jack Sparrow. They just jump around and you think that you've got it covered and then they're like, what happens if a customer does this? What's your solution going to do? How are you going to deal with that? And then I suddenly realized that the first line risk partner was actually putting me through a boot camp and was trying to partner with me, and I hadn't realized. And now, of course, she's my best friend forever because you should be best friends forever with your first line risk partner.
Okay, that's probably my problem. At Mitsubishi, I am the first line of defense. No, seriously, our IT organizations are considered first line defense. We're the ones who are creating the controls. We're working with the second line of defense, who's actually the ones who are trying to boil down the myriad regulatory laws that we have to adhere to, the GBLA, CCPA, the dreaded FFEIC CAT.
That sounds like a doctor's thing.
It's a cybersecurity assessment tool. It's the thing that kind of governs us. It's the thing that if we violate any of them, that's what the Fed and the OCC are going to come crack down on us. And then there's our third line of defense, which is our audit team. And the audit team makes sure that those of us in first line actually did the controls that second line told us to do. But I will say that the partnerships are the things that make that thing. So we had to adopt with our second and third line partners to build like a centralized, for example, data governance system. So we could start to centralize the regulatory rules for that. So we're not relying on 100 different application teams to go out and try and on their own decide, how am I going to enforce all these different regulatory concerns.
So this sounds like a nightmare. Now I'm beginning to see why it takes you guys months and months and months to get anything done, and the apps keep coming up. So I have another choice for you.
Oh, thank God.
Yes, we got another drink out. This is called, my creation, this is Safe Harbor. So we've been talking about the security.
Doesn't feel safe to me.
I will work on those skills. But it's all about making it more secure for us, right?
Yeah, no, it is. And I was just going to say one of the challenges actually around risk and security from a bank perspective that I think a lot of vendors don't really perhaps appreciate is the communications. So as a product, on the product side, we certainly have to communicate at all different levels. And just this week I was trying to write a board paper. Have you been to Executive Land? Have you visited that place? That is a whole other language. It's like a dialect of English, right? So I've got this Aussie slang going on. I have to completely rewrite the way that my board paper comes together in Executive Land, like dialect. But if you don't get your executives on board, then you run into all kinds of trouble, and they're always asking about security.
So you're from Australia. Oh, God, I didn't pick up on that at all. No, we suffered the same thing. Again, communication and partnering. One of the things that we realized when we were going through our long-term identity strategy was trying to understand the pain points from all of the different stakeholders. And were there things that actually boiled down to identity and access management controls that we could help implement? One of the biggest glaring holes that we found was that the guys in our SOC, who are great and have this huge NASA-like set of screens that they're looking through every day, not one of those screens was monitoring any of the identity and access management systems. Wasn't looking for anomalies in the login, or wasn't looking for unscrupulous behavior coming in from our access control system. And a lot of it was because we hadn't provided a centralized way for them to consume that data. So one of the most valuable things I think we've done over the last 2 years has been this partnership with our SOC to provide a data stream that then collaboratively we could talk about what they needed versus what we could provide, and the places where there were holes in those, we worked to fill them. Probably the other piece that I talked about, like our developers, because God bless them, they have to keep track of everything. But we hire developers because they're really good at coding. So what they're not very good at is again, trying to interpret regulatory requirements, trying to understand the best ways to do authorization. I don't want them spending time doing that. I certainly don't want 100 different teams all spending time figuring out how to do it on their own. So just like we did with our data governance piece, we're incorporating all of that into an external authorization service that our API gateway can talk to. Now, the developers don't need to worry about whether this transaction is going to go through or not. They send the transaction through the API gateway, and the gateway can make the deny or grant call on that. Again, took a huge burden off of our developer team, increased our security, ease of use. We're able to get like actual business functionality out the door quicker.
Sounds like you found the treasure, the treasure that you were looking for. But I don't know about you, but this week I've been listening to the vendors. There's been some amazing vendor pitches and presentations. And speaking of golden treasure, like I am looking at their product roadmaps, and I just wish I could go on that journey with them, and that I could get all of the things that they want, and I want it tomorrow, and I want it installed, and I want it integrated, I want into my customers' hands, and then I come back to reality. And I realize that sometimes in banking, we are dealing with legacy systems, some of which may have been built last century before digital. And the harsh reality is, as much as you would, dream for some of the things, and I am very excited about some of the things that I can see coming, we have to live in the landscape, the risk and the governance and the security space that we're living in now.
It's almost like you spent way more time focusing on actually adhering to the theme of the presentation.
Okay, that sounds like my cue.
Yeah, it is a cue.
So I have my last little option here, and something that I want you guys to try and explain for me. So all I've been hearing you guys talk about is security and OCD things and all of this stuff. It sounds like you got it all going on. It's working really well. And then you use the app. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I've used the app, and whenever I need to use it, I have to log in again, and it's kicked me out. And I try and find the right stuff, and it says, something happened, come back later. Can you work on that for just a little bit?
We can. And I think you've actually touched on a really good point that users, we're running from, circus to circus.
Something to wash it down with.
From pillar to post, we're all trying to do things on our phone, we're talking to people, and in the middle of all of that, we do something wrong. And it sounds like, not say the user, but it sounds like it should be really simple for us. Don't you think it should be simple?
It is for us.
It should be simple for the folks that have put the app together, or the bank, to put the app together to tell you where you're up to in your journey. Why is that so hard? So one of the challenges that we face into is enumeration attacks, and in the strangest place, you have to look at your error messaging. So it's sort of enumeration by error messaging. If you give the end user, customer, we call it customer, person, bartender, too much information in the error messages, you're actually giving the fraudster a hint around the rules and the policies and the things that you so cleverly put in place to protect from enumeration attacks. And that's one of the balancing acts that we're kind of dealing with at the moment.
So that stuff you guys were talking about the whole OCD thing, that's why Uber can come out with an app like in a week, and it takes you guys a month or 2 months or 3 months or 4 months or a while to get there, right?
I was going to say, when you asked, can you work on making this better? And can you really, I was going to say, in a word, no. Well, we can, but it is going to take a long time. There's a couple of things that kind of stymie us in the banking industry. And one of them is the practice, like within our own organization, of trying to strike that balance between security and user experience. And 9 out of 10 times, security is going to win over that. That was the legacy story. Starting a couple of years ago, and thanks to a lot of good work pretend there was a conference where all you did was talk about identity stuff, and
Who thought?
people were doing fantastic
I'll
work
go there.
and making these things easier. Suddenly, there's now more technologies available that not only increase the security of our externally facing applications, but they're also providing a much better user experience. Good example for us is I'm sorry, I should be talking about the treasure map of our identity strategy.
Hey, you got it.
Getting into it now that now that we're going to end.
The shots in the middle. It's warming up.
I'm sorry. No, but using something like when security came and said, these are some of the riskiest transactions that we've got when we're looking at like our institutional customers doing securities trading and stuff. They said, so we're going to have the highest level of authentication checks right up front. And of course, that's a terrible user experience for anybody who's just trying to come in and do their day-to-day.
Yeah.
So what we adopted instead, leveraging some of the newer technologies that are out, is adaptive authentication. So, just coming into your initial portal to maybe all you did was you wanted to come in and you wanted to see the status of your yesterday's activity in your account. You just come in with your normal authentication thing. Hopefully it's something that you can use device-based authentication to make it easy to get in. And then if you wanted to do something that was a little bit more risky, like a money movement transaction that was going to move funds from one area to another, then we would talk about doing step-up authentication.
Yep.
We would start to be monitoring those transactions as they went through the system a little more carefully, and that's when we would offer those. But it's made the user experience a lot better.
It's so much better. It drives me crazy when folks sort of speak to me about, as a product person, you have to give us the perfect journey. So if somebody comes in and it's A to B to C to and I'm like, why? There's no perfect journey because there's no perfect user. I don't know who we think these perfect users are. We're all human and a little crazy and, all make mistakes as we're running from one conference thing to the other along the way. And so it's to me, the developments in adaptive security are becoming my best friend around, I'm leveraging those in order to say we need to be more adaptive to the customer in the moment. Tell us what you've, tell us some things about you, and we will adapt to what information you can share in that moment and where you are and what your device is telling us, and we'll make it, we'll map it through those sort of islands, if you like, and we'll get you where you need to go, but we'll get you in a way that's tailored to you.
Yeah, and of course, right at the same time, we're trying to build a better picture of what our customer is and what they're doing in customer activity. We're also now trying to adapt to greater and greater levels of data privacy things. But again, there's wonderful new technologies out there to not do just anonymization. I have had a lot. In a very short period of time.
Anonymization? No, that one?
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
But also doing like fractional data privacy. So we can start to build trends of what our customers are doing, what the important things are for our customers without knowing which individual customers they are, without violating any of these new data privacy regulations. Same with things we didn't think we had to worry about here in the US, like open banking. Oh, that's a PSD2 thing that's taking place out in Europe. We're not going to need to worry about that until we did.
Yeah, we've had that in Australia too. We've had some challenges,
waiting for us there was the FAPI standards to help us build our open banking thing so that we can leverage those standards and know that when we're sharing information about the customers across to other organizations and entities, that we're doing it in a secure fashion that also meets all the current regulatory requirements.
It's almost closing time, folks. This is where that whole alleged retired thing comes up. Key takeaways. What does everybody walk away from here thinking about trials and tribulations of your week?
A couple of things. One, be friends with your first-line risk partner. She may be trying to protect you from yourself. Make sure that you do understand and work in with your security folks. Find the innovator in your security department and buddy up with them and get them to work with you to you know, put the executive board papers together in a way that makes sense. You need to recognise, we all need to recognise that we have blind spots, and for that reason, don't go it alone. You know, we all need a crew on the ship.
Hutch?
I can't seem to finish my beer.
It's what we call a bottomless cup. Guys, hopefully we got a little bit of an insight as to what happens in the day of working in banking. I, for one, am kind of glad that they have to deal with these stuff, because all of our money is in that, and security is still like an important part of that. They're here, I'm here, they're here for the rest of the day and all week, out in the hallways. If you've got questions, thoughts, comments, and discussion around it, grab us in the hallways and come and continue the conversation. And thanks for joining the bar.
Thank you. Thanks, Alan. Off you go.